Welcome to Making Your Moment, a podcast about discovery, refinement, and creating your own pathway. This is a podcast where we talk about how you don't rely on luck or chance or things just to happen for you. It really is about making your own breaks and finding ways to invest in yourself so that you can create something special for your life and for those around you. So that's what we do. That's what we talk about. And my name is Dr. Anthony Altieri, and with me I have my colleagues and co-hosts, Dr. Shalando Campbell.
Hey.
And Dr. Sophie Denora.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going, team? How we doing?
Doing great
good
today.
Yeah, it's really good.
Ready to get chatting.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
So we want to talk about the concept of accountability and what that really means. And, realistically, you can break it down and simplify it to just, owning your choices and owning your actions and whatnot. And yes, that's what it is. But it does show up differently for all of us at different stages of our lives or our careers or our being in general. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it really is about the concept of owning and ownership. And, and I think it's important to parse that out a little bit and really talk about that, because it's not just owning, it is owning, but it's not blaming.
That's right.
We don't want to blame others, ourselves, or whatnot when we don't do what we either expect ourselves to do or what someone else expects from us or what we expect from somebody. So ownership and not blame. That's the first principle of accountability. So what do you all think?
I mean, I think it's a lot of it is colored just kind of by people's experiences growing up, right? And if they came up in an environment where everything was seen as punitive, accountability can feel like an attack when you're not accustomed.
Absolutely.
And so when everything is viewed through that lens of it being a punishment, even in my current role, serving as a dean on a college campus, you have a lot of times that's the lens through which students will view an interaction or an accountability conversation until you really spend time
almost
unpacking ownership of the action, ownership of the outcome. So again, that's not a focus on blame. You did this and you're bad. This is, okay, this happened. Here is what happened. Let's talk about why this happened. Let's talk about how we can improve moving forward. Accountability always comes with the lens of process improvement, right? And so once you start to shift that mindset away from that punitive lens, I think it really opens up and more possibilities.
Yeah, and I think that's tough, right? I think that's tough depending on how you were raised or brought up.
Yeah.
Because each family, each set of circumstances is different. And sometimes, whether right or wrong, accountability does come in the form of, you're in trouble because you did something. Or you didn't do something right based off of, the authoritarian in that moment.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough mindset to shift away from as you continue to grow in your life.
Yeah, and I think it can be really hard, right, to be accountable. And kind of what a lot of people, what do they mean when we say that, right? And so I think saying I messed up, people tend to think that means I'm not capable.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right? And I think a lot of people think that with accountability, but actually saying, I actually find it quite empowering now. It took me a long time to get through college and go through my professional career, but it's actually really empowering to say, hey, I messed up, and then following that up with, but this is how I'm going to fix it.
Absolutely.
And that's being accountable.
Well, I think that's such an important, because it's about personal ownership, right? Owning the outcome, owning the situation, and your role in it. And that really is what accountability is, ultimately, at the end of the day. And when something goes wrong, and this is for our listeners to think about, right? When something goes wrong, do you tend to explain it away or take ownership? That's the important piece, right? Like, how do you respond in that moment?
Yeah.
And I think you can explain your thought process. You can explain what happened.
How you got there.
How you got there. And I think that's an important process of accountability. But at the end of the day, when all said and done, it's got to be, okay, I have to own it. It is my whatever it is that we're at or that we have to fulfill or take advantage of here. And ownership is hard, right? It's tough to do that because sometimes you maybe have failed in your own mind or in meeting someone else's expectations. And that is a process of development and growth. I think back to, my own childhood. I grew up with 3 brothers, and, it was constant. You broke something in the house, you broke the lamp, and the finger was
The
like,
Spider-Man point. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I broke it, but it was because of this.
Yeah.
It was because of something that this person did, and that's not really accountability,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's getting to that place where you can eventually own, like, yes, my action led to this.
Yeah.
Versus my action led to this, but if I wasn't put in this situation because of you or of you, it would have broken.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is really, there's an element of habit formation that comes with this, right? Because one of the things I think earlier in our lives of trying to, let's take this stance of accountability, to the point you mentioned, ownership is hard. But I think as you kind of develop muscle memory and the habit of doing that, you find that ownership, it's actually empowering.
Absolutely.
Because blame is something being cast upon you, right? It's something that, it's a label or something that someone is throwing on you. Whereas if you're owning that, then you also have the ability to take a lead in identifying solutions.
Right.
And that, you know what I mean? And so I know for me, and I think as I talk to peers, that's just one of the things, is that ownership becomes something that's a bit of empowerment, because it's not just blame that's being cast on you or thrown on you like this blanket or a lid, but it's something that you're actively engaged in a process of identifying solutions and moving forward to progress things, right? So there's different stages that you go through in this journey, for sure.
Well, I think that's such an important point, right? The different stages and your sense of accountability, or just the concept of accountability in your being, increases with the more freedom you get.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you're a youngster, you're usually an authoritative view of life. Someone's telling you what to do in school. Your parents are telling you what to do at home.
Yeah.
You do get those elements of freedom as, those individuals allow you to learn that skill. But again, it's learning and practicing that skill.
Yeah.
And as you get to a place where now you have this freedom with your time and your choices and all those things, that's just that concept of accountability really elevates. And, the more freedom you have, the more responsibility you carry.
Yeah.
Oh, always. Yeah, for sure. I remember this one time I was taking an English class my first year, and I remember it was a fairly easy class, I would say. And so I would show up, I would do the assignments. It was all going great. And I remember at the end of the semester, I was like, cool, I'm going to get 100% of this class. Easy, no problem, right? But while I was in class, I would cruise on my laptop. Like, I wouldn't really participate, so to speak. And so I was just kind of online shopping, if I'm totally honest.
Let's be real. There's still some meetings I do that in.
Yes, right? The internet just got away from me.
Yep.
And so at the end of the semester, I pull up my grade, and I got a B in the class. And I was totally shocked, right? And so...
In a good or a bad way?
I was expecting 100%. I'm like, hey, I'm acing all these
so
assignments.
I'm guessing bad. I'm guessing bad.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I go to the professor. I'm like, I was being accountable, I thought, right? I was like, hey, I'm going to show up, ask some questions, see what's up. And she told me, she's like, hey, like, I noticed while you're in class, you did all the assignments, you did great, but you did not engage. And that was tough for me to hear, right? Because there's layers to being accountable. So in my mind, I thought I was being accountable in college by going to class, right? I wasn't skipping class. I was doing the assignments. Yeah, I was just showing up, right? But I wasn't engaging and being that, student that was at that A level. So I'm just curious if you guys also had experiences with that.
Yeah, I mean, same. Leaving not just my home, but a country. To come to the U.S. And
Absolutely.
now, I didn't have like a ton of curfews growing up or whatever, but, there was still an expectation of being in a certain place at a certain time or whatever that might look like. And it was the same thing where, you get there, and without, again, having the ability to take ownership, thus having accountability, that's what can quickly turn that freedom into chaos, right? Like all of these unintended consequences that come out of not wanting to have a certain level of discipline, structure, ownership about what's going on in your actions and how you're conducting your life can quickly lead to chaotic things, or things that unintended consequences, which sometimes those are good, but generally they're not, right? And so that's really important of really understanding that accountability is the price to have not just freedom, but good freedom.
Great point.
Because like if you can be free to do whatever you want, but you're just feeling all of this tension in your life all the time. But if you're having these guardrails in place, if you're taking time to periodically assess and look back and review different actions and consider outcomes and consequences of actions before you take them, right? Before you enter into a land of something being punitive, that's so much more freeing. That's a
Yeah.
better freedom.
Oh, without a doubt. But I also think that comes with maturity,
Absolutely.
comes with time, comes with experience. I think that's difficult for some, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the phase or the season in life you're in. You know, oftentimes you're not thinking about, if I do this, this is likely to be the outcome.
Yeah.
In a positive or negative way.
I'm just going to do.
I'm just right. And see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And then if you do that, and that's fine. That's an approach, and I think that's an appropriate level for some people, based on their level of maturity or their age or whatnot. You still have to own the outcome,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah. And adding to that too, I think the impact of whatever that outcome is going to be.
Absolutely, and not only impact on yourself, but the impact on others, which I think is the next big thing that you need to think about.
Yeah.
When you're in these, just going through life, your impact isn't just going to be on you.
Yeah.
You live in a global society, a place where others either rely on you or have some element of interaction with you that you're going to impact, whether in a large degree or a small degree, it doesn't matter. But choices do affect those around you, whether it be if you're living on a college campus, your roommates, your classmates.
Yeah.
If you're living in a neighborhood, your neighbors.
On an athletic team,
On an
you
athletic
name it.
team.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
whatever.
yep, absolutely. And I think that working in a group project, whether it be at school or at work, so what we do and how we interact and the level of accountability that we express to those around us matters.
Yeah.
I think about just our interaction here. We work on a team, not only for this purpose, but in other contexts. And I think that there's times when we make a mistake, you have to own it.
Yeah.
Right. And that, again, neither good nor bad. I think that going back to what Sophie said earlier, it's really about that process of owning it and then claiming it. Right. You've identified it. Now you're claiming it.
Yeah.
And you're going to hopefully work towards resolution as a unit.
I think this is kind of funny, but I think one of the things, there's so many differences and divides among the generations, right? But one thing that we are universally united on is our disdain for group projects, right? In college or high school or you name it.
Because it impacts
right. And
your
so,
level of
but it's
accountability.
that fear, right? Of
Trusting.
somebody else not having that personal discipline, that accountability to complete their part. And there's an impact that it's going to have on me.
Without a
Or
doubt.
on the other side, like if I know thyself, right? And if I know, I tend to kind of coast and slack and procrastinate. There's that pressure that comes with, am I going to let these people down? Again, because of that impact that it has on others. This is not just my grade depending on this
Right.
now.
Absolutely.
This is 3, 4, or 5 other people. And so that's definitely something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Well, there's a relational element to it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's true with just about everything we do, and every topic we will ever talk about on this podcast will probably tie back to relationships because it is so important. Can you think of a time, perhaps, when someone else's lack of accountability may have affected you? Maybe can you think of?
Plenty.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And taking it a step further, so how it impacted you, but did it change the relationship?
Yeah.
And especially if there was a pattern of a lack of accountability.
Absolutely.
In my case, I had it on, again, talking about athletic teams, but I'm thinking even in an office context where, again, because so many of the different projects and things that we were doing relied on collaborative effort, I started to view these individuals as people that I couldn't trust, I couldn't count on.
Yeah.
If you're habitual, if something happened on one moment, circumstances, we have to have grace there, right? But if I start recognizing a pattern of you not showing up, right, coming in prepared, doing what you need to do, I'm gonna just look elsewhere. I'm not even gonna think to include you on what we needed to, and that is ultimately what happened. So.
Well, that's such trust is huge.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're surrounded by people who aren't owning their choices, their decisions, their actions, eventually it becomes a trust issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to probably limit the way you interact with that person.
Yeah.
Right. Because if it shines through in like a project setting,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably going to shine through in that personal setting.
Yeah,
Where you're just
absolutely.
having that one-on-one relationship. It's like, can I really trust what this
Mhm.
person's saying or doing
Yeah.
in the in the whole scheme of things? And so I think that does affect relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you start to see someone in a different light.
Yeah. And we talked earlier about the cost, right? That of freedom is accountability. But there's another way to look at this too, is there's currency that's generated, and it is that trust and that credibility that from being someone who demonstrates consistently that you are someone who takes personal accountability and takes ownership of your decisions and your actions and all of that. People tend to be drawn to that. People tend to want to partner with you, want to collaborate with you, want to seek your input on things
Oh, without a
because
doubt.
you've developed that currency of trust and credibility. Because
Yeah, exactly.
you know what I mean?
Credibility, trust, confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. If people are going to get out of you what they somewhat expect
Yeah.
in that interaction, that's the confidence piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's such an important piece too, right? People who are accountable are often trusted more and are given more opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think that comes to life in every setting.
Oh, absolutely. And I think thinking about too, right? Trust is built through ownership, not perfection.
Absolutely.
And I think whenever you build that trust, it has to be a two-way street. So
Without a
thinking one of my examples is I was a young professional and I was in charge of emailing our like campus news to the whole campus. So the email was going to thousands of people, very important to the story. And through that, also important to the story, when I would create the email newsletters, there was no like how I would check your spelling. What's that called?
Yeah. Spell check.
Yeah.
Spell check. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I'd write
Which
the
is a
newsletters.
critical tool these days.
Oh, yeah, very important also to the story. So I remember it was the end of the year, right? I was sending out the last newsletter. I was so excited. And in there I wrote, congratulations, graduates, right? Is congratulations spelled with a T or a D?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I spelled it the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're graduates, you could
Oh,
do a word
so
play.
no, this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
great,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
You
I,
would-
so I did
That's a bar.
congratulations, right?
Yeah.
And so this whole email chain starts going forward from faculty to students, and it was going
Oh,
back and
no.
forth, and it got forwarded to me, right? And people are saying, "Oh my gosh, like, did they mean to do this, or is this intentional, or did they just spell something wrong? Like, that's so embarrassing." Now I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get fired for this," right? Like, I saw my life ending
For one
in one email chain, right? And
It's
so
a fickle environment.
you know, but then this beautiful thing happened. It goes to our director of marketing. So y'all, this went up high. Okay. And it was like, "Hey, Sophie, really fun play on words. Just make sure, just to double check." Right. So they totally thought it was intentional that I was spelling congratulations, congratulations. Right. But I remember this moment with my supervisor, you know, instead of coming to me and being like, "Sophie, like you totally messed up. You got to make sure you're better on spell check. You got to do these
Right.
things." She just asked me, "Hey, what happened?"
Right.
And that gave me a moment to be accountable and then to follow up with like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. By the way, I just downloaded Grammarly.
Yeah.
This will never happen again." Right? So thinking about that
Yeah.
trust, right? It has to be given both ways
Yeah.
where you have the opportunity to be accountable.
Yeah. And I mean, you know what, that actually, a couple of things that I just pulled out of that story, but it one of the things too is, even as in a leadership role, I think of, you know, Anthony, you and I are on the parenting journey.
Right. Yeah.
As we work with students, and we have people that work with us and on our teams and stuff, trying to engender and cultivate accountability where people, because of people's background and the noise they have
Absolutely.
coming in, punitive, it's punishment, bad. I've learned to not just lead with, "Well, why?"
Yeah.
It's, "Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
What happened here?"
Even when you know, because
Even when you know, even
I
when you
find
know.
as a
Yeah.
parent,
Yeah.
like I typically know or can deduce what has happened in
Yeah.
the situation, especially between my kids. Right.
But what are we doing in that moment?
You're trying to teach.
We're teaching, we're cultivating a habit of reflection.
Right.
Let me give you some space. Let me ask the right prompting questions,
Correct.
because I might know, because I'm looking at this.
Right.
But I want to see
or I
if
actually
you
witnessed it happen.
yeah, well, yeah.
And if you're lying to my
felt
face,
yeah, that's a different episode of this
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly.
But it creates space, and it creates that safety to feel like, okay, I can make mistakes. My favorite line, that's why this is called Earth and not Perfect World, right?
Right.
Things are going to happen, but do I have the space? Do I have an opportunity to kind of examine it critically, think through it, own it first of all, think through it, and then examine ways to get better. to do better. And so that's an important lesson. Just as much as you learned as the subordinate, as the employee, to own that error, what your supervisor at the time did with you really created some space for you to grow from that moment, right? So
for sure. And it's kind of thinking about, right, it's not about perfection, it's not about being the best employee, it's not about spelling all the right words all the right time, right, but thinking about effort and honesty, because that's what really builds trust between people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
And I think that a lot of people get stuck on the idea of being perfect, but there's no such thing, right? Because perfection means something different to every single person that you interact with.
Yeah.
And so you'll never be perfect. You can't, and even if you think you've achieved it, you need to change the minute you've achieved it, because the world around you is changing.
Has a different lens.
Exactly. You strive for excellence instead in those moments and in those interactions. And if you hit it, fantastic. And if not, but there's so much that you can learn from failing.
Yeah.
And I think that's your point, both of you. It's there is no such thing as perfection, and when you do make a mistake, or if it's even more grandiose than a spelling error, you actually fail at something, whether it be a class or a project or even in a moment. I think we're all humans, and people make mistakes. I could think of a situation that happened just this past weekend. There was sometimes driving in South Florida, very
preach
frustrating.
The worst.
Yes.
And I was driving through a plaza, and an individual had stopped their vehicle right in the middle of the road, and there's two vehicles on the side of the road, both of their blinkers on, not creating a pathway for vehicles to get through. So I come rolling up behind the person. I just get a little friendly.
Two honks. One honk is mean. Two is okay.
Right, exactly. And they got the quick honks too.
Yeah.
I give a couple quick honks. This man rolls down his window to throw me the finger.
Yeah.
And
not saying that you're number one.
Definitely not in that regard, right? And so I unfortunately did not respond well to that. And my daughter was in the car. And we pull away, and she's like, "Are you okay?" My daughter asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I was very mad at the moment, but I realized that I was also wrong."
Yeah.
Right. And so I apologized. I said, "Listen, I am embarrassed and ashamed of how I responded in that situation."
Yeah.
Because that's not something you want to role model for your children.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I owned it.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Listen, I really don't want to keep dwelling on it."
Let's move on.
However, in that moment, again, you're in a space where sorry that happened. Sorry you witnessed that, and I need to do better. And saying those words out loud, especially, and I think there's so much power in that, especially when for lack of a better word, or when the power differential exists. Right? When you're the parent and you say I'm sorry to your child, you made a
powerful
mistake.
Yeah.
It is. And same thing, in the workforce, a supervisor really messing up and telling their employee, their subordinate,
this is on me.
This is on me. I screwed this up. And sometimes even owning that when it isn't your fault as a boss. But that's a different conversation. But at the end of the day, it really is, there's a difference between making excuses versus showing grace, and being able to show that grace. And I think that there's a line. I think that there's times to explain the choice or the behavior or whatever happened, and then and I think as leaders, or as just in general, anybody really, any person can make the decision of how much grace can I give. In those moments, and I think that's where the learning happens.
Because sometimes the explanation is an opportunity to give the person that you're talking to a clue as to there wasn't clarity about the expectation, right? About what I didn't understand the assignment, and that's why I messed this up.
Right.
And so it's good. I mean, you don't want to live in that explanation, excuse phase, because then it starts becoming just making excuses, right? But if I can provide logic behind my thinking that led to this decision, sometimes for the listener, it allows me to realize, oh, maybe I wasn't clear in what I set out in terms of expectations. So let's spend some time doing that so everyone can truly be on the same page, and we can avoid, not even avoid this mistake. It's more about we can move closer towards excellence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
That
it's not
growth.
an avoidance. It's a progressive way of thinking versus an avoidance thing. So
Without a doubt.
It's that growth, right?
that's it.
Well, that's it. Growth in every moment. Which is why we talk about making your moment, right? Because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
So, great conversation, and you guys are phenomenal. And in my interactions with you of holding yourself and others accountable, which I think is so important in creating a space where people can thrive. So to close us out, if accountability is a skill and not a personality trait, right? You're not born with this sense of accountability, right? This is something you have to work on. This is a skill you have to nurture, a skill you need to invest in, a skill you have to practice on a regular basis. How do you think people can go about that process? How do you train so that you can master that skill? And you can speak about it generally.
Yeah.
As a person, you can put it into context of a period in your life. But what advice would you give?
Yeah, I love that question, because I feel like whoever's listening to this podcast, I feel like something I would do if I was listening, I'd be like, go Google or maybe ChatGPT. Like, how do I be more accountable as a person? Right? Like, what does that look like?
Well, hopefully, you give me information to help them.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it shows up every single day, right? And I think what's so interesting about accountability and thinking about this is something employers want to see, this is something we want to see in our students, right? How do you achieve that? How do you get to that self-growth, that number one feeling of you're at self-actualization?
Yeah.
And so I really think about it shows up in patterns, right?
Yeah.
So rather than say Shalando and I are in a group project and say we totally bombed it, right? Anthony, you're our professor and you're like, hey, you guys got an F on this. And rather than pointing the finger and be like, well, Shalando didn't do anything.
No, that's Sophie's F.
Yeah.
She gonna take all that. Yeah.
Right?
Every second of it.
Yeah.
Having that conversation right in that moment and saying, hey, where do you think we messed up? Right. And rather than being accusatory and being like pointing fingers, rather than just kind of what we talked about, right? Asking that first question.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it shows up every single day.
Yeah.
I think to the point that we made a bit earlier too about it's a habit that's developed, right? And I think there's certain practical things that we can do before we're in a moment, before we're in a situation where we're either being accosted by someone or whatever. I think spending some time just reflecting, not overthinking, because it's sometimes and I'm saying this and I understand how this can be a slippery slope for some people. Right. Ever see that T-shirt? Hold on, let me overthink this. But there is some value in reflection. So as you work on you're working on a project, you're working on any kind of task, any responsibility. Make sure you're spending time, and reflection includes evaluating, right? I have an understanding. What is success supposed to look like? Right. If I know what that is, when I get done doing this thing, I can see how close I am to that benchmark. That is reflection. When you're evaluating something, right? So that active evaluation of the work, of the thing, the activity that you're engaging in. Impact. You're evaluating, reflecting on the impact that it had. Did I meet the mark? Did I deliver on what I was supposed to do? How did my level, quality of whatever it was I did, how did the outcome I create impact somebody else, positively or negatively? How did it impact our organization? How did it impact the group project, our team, right? And so just that habit of reflecting, sometimes it can be daily. You can do a daily rundown before you're brushing your teeth, like some of the things I did today. How do I feel about that? And it's just those little habit forming tasks, processes that you engage in really start to shape or cultivate just a lens of accountability in individuals. Because oftentimes we just kind of go through life and we're not really thinking about, well, I'm just doing it because somebody told me I needed to do it, and here it is. But we never stop and really think through, okay, by me doing this, what was the knock-on effect? What impact did it have moving forward on somebody else and their ability to get their job done or their ability to get home to their kid? I don't know, whatever that looks like, right? So just that reflection. Yeah. Pause for a few moments to reflect.
Absolutely. And I think that reflection leads to an awareness. And once you're aware of something, then you can actively start to take, whether it be the ownership of it or actively work on fostering.
Look for growth opportunities. Right?
And so as we close, I think that what I would ask the listener to take away from this today, actually I'm going to ask a question because I think this is something that we would want you to reflect on. What's one recent outcome in your life that you could take more ownership of? And as you think about that, I hope you consider all the points that Shalando and Sophie have made, because I think they're good points. One, it's not blame. You can't beat yourself up over things that have happened. As you have this ability to this freedom of time and choice, you have a sense of responsibility. And you need to own that. You need to own the decisions and all those things that come with it. You know, your actions, your choices impact others.
Yeah.
It impacts you. It impacts your community, and how you respond is going to dictate your reputation, your level of trust, and the trust that people have in you, and finally grow through those mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. Life is full of them
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Yeah.
Look at my socks I chose today. Clearly a mistake.
Be empowered to make mistakes.
A decision was made.
The decision was made,
Yeah.
and I'm owning it. So thank you for listening. Thank you both for your wisdom. Thanks for listening to Making Your Moment, and we will for sure catch you on the next episode. Be well, and we'll talk soon.